What is nu metal? Nu metal is a term that is often used rather broadly, much like classic rock. Now in reality, classic rock isn't really a genre. It is a broad umbrella term that encompasses many other rock genres, such as prog rock, southern rock, folk rock, glam rock, hard rock, etc. Usually genres that were prevalent in the 60s and 70s, though over time the label has also started to include the 80s and 90s as well. In the more common use of the term, nu metal has a similar connotation, but meaning harder rock music from the late 90s and early 2000s. This includes genres like alternative metal, rap metal, funk metal, industrial metal, metalcore, and metal and roll, which is a hybrid of metal and hard rock. This is why you hear everything from Marilyn Manson to Avenged Sevenfold get called nu metal, even though they sound nothing alike, and neither sound like true nu metal. However, most of the time when someone says nu metal, they are really referring to alt metal or rap metal, so I will differentiate all three of these in this video. And I've already done videos on funk metal, industrial metal, and metal and roll, if you are curious to check those out as well. Unlike classic rock, nu metal is a natural sound, so there's two definitions of nu metal. The first being the broad term that people normally use, and the second being the very specific sound. And when I use the term nu metal in my videos, 9 out of 10 times I mean the specific sound. True nu metal, or raw nu metal, if you want a more descriptive term, has an eerie and angsty vibe to it. Korn defines this raw nu metal style. Particularly on their first album. This sound is made up of groove metal, grunge, and hip hop.
So the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rock and twist.
Korn have experimented with other styles on other records, however, I should note. Another great example of pure nu metal is the band Coal Chamber, who are sometimes thought of as a Korn knockoff. What defines nu metal is the creepy factor.
Hush, little baby, don't make a sound.
Looking at both Korn and Coal Chamber's album covers, they both give off strong Stranger Danger vibes. Nu metal is way darker thematically than alt metal or rap metal, and revolves around childhood trauma and other themes of troubled youth, bullying, abuse, and things of that nature.
Why did you tease me, make me feel upset?
All my life, who am I? I'm just a faggot. I'm just a faggot.
It has a strong teen angst vibe, but it's a little more deep than a 13-year-old being sad that their crush doesn't like them. It's more genuine teen angst, reflective of actual problems growing up. Most nu metal has influence from other styles. Drowning Pool, who are most famous for their one-hit wonder Bodies, combine nu metal and hard rock on Sinner.
Let the bodies hit the
Nu metal and roll, if you will.
all over me, all over me.
Damage Plan has elements of both nu metal and sludge metal.
In the blink of an eye, blink of an eye.
Soulfly are nu metal too, even if they mix styles.
If you're gonna fight, what you gonna do? Jump the fuck up!
Now rap metal is more upbeat, with more bouncy riffs, and obviously rapping for vocals.
No human contact, and if you interact, your life is on contract.
Nu metal does not have rapping for vocals unless it is a hybrid of both genres. Limp Bizkit embodies rap metal. Of course, there were people doing rap metal before this, like Anthrax
Heavy metal band raps a different way. We like to be different, not cliché.
and Body Count, who blend rap with crossover thrash.
Goddamn, what a brother gotta do to get a message through to the red, white, and blue.
This is a sort of proto-rap metal, I suppose, but the Limp Bizkit variety is what is more commonly thought of as rap metal, being more like alt metal meets rap. The theme of rap metal is more uplifting and positive than nu metal, involving a bit of bravado and posturing. Most lyrics are rapped, as expected, and instead of discussing trauma and issues, it's more about bragging about having already overcome your problems and flexing about it.
It'll be okay.
Or pretending that you don't care about your problems anyway.
I'ma do things my way. It's my way or the highway.
Other rap metal bands include POD,
Ready or not, how you like me now?
Nonpoint, who mix in hard rock,
The way I work to other things, they just take away from me. I got a bullet with a name on it.
and Papa Roach, who blend in emo.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. If somebody will tell me I'm fine.
Finally, alternative metal is distinct from both nu metal and rap metal, in that the hip-hop and rap influence is missing entirely.
Even though we can't afford the sky is over.
I think the reason that alt metal is lumped in with these other two so often is because rap and hip-hop are so popular that these bands have dipped their toes in here and there. I'll use two extremely popular songs for instance. Bring Me to Life by Evanescence features a rapper,
All this time, I can't believe I couldn't see. Kept in the dark.
and Chop Suey by System of a Down has vocals that are sort of rapping, I suppose.
Rush, put a little makeup. I just have to fade away the shake up.
However, in your average Evanescence or System of a Down song, you will find no hip-hop or rap influence whatsoever. System of a Down is the quintessential alt metal band. Vocals consist of singing and screaming, seldom rapping. Instrumentation is more chaotic and strange, but the song structure is overall still fairly conventional. At least compared to something like mathcore or avant-garde metal anyway. And the lyrics are a bit more abstract and satirical. Alt metal is much more goofy and lighthearted than nu metal, but takes itself a little bit more seriously than funk metal. It is absurd, but purposefully so. The theme of alt metal is making a point through absurdity. By addressing these issues mockingly and with levity, the juxtaposition makes you aware of how serious these things really are. But because it's so silly, it doesn't feel preachy.
What is meant to be? Pizza, pizza, pie. Every minute, every day, therapy, therapy, advertising causes. Therapy, therapy, advertising causes.
Serge Tankian's solo work is another example of pure alt metal on Elect the Dead.
My baby, let me go. She broke her little bones on the boulders below.
I should also mention that there were bands prior to System of a Down that are often labeled as alt metal, like Helmet,
Your contribution left unnoticed, son.
and Filter. The sound of these bands in the 90s is a little different and often has other influences. I consider it a sort of proto-alt metal. However, most alt metal is far more diluted than System of a Down. Many alt metal bands take influence from post-grunge. These include Breaking Benjamin,
You left the hole where my heart should be.
3 Days Grace,
Let's start a riot,
and Seether.
Walk away from the sun and you're fading with every day.
These artists are far more conventional, both musically and lyrically, having just as much in common with Nickelback as they do with System of a Down. These bands rarely have silly lyrics like this, and are far more likely to just have earnest messages about relationships and depression and things of that nature. Other bands mix alt metal and hard rock, such as Stone Sour
I'm alive in here.
and Godsmack.
I've told you this once before.
Some blend alt metal with gothic metal, like Evanescence, and Lacuna Coil. Then, of course, there's the infamous Deftones, as well as Chevelle, which have their own sound too. Not to mention Apocalyptica, who may very well be their own genre, as they play with electric cellos instead of guitars. Which is quite neat. But regardless of this, I'd broadly call their style alt metal. They even have guest vocals from other alt metal singers, such as the vocalists of 3 Days Grace,
'Cause I swear I don't care.
Stone Sour, and Lacuna Coil.
I'm not Jesus, I will not forgive.
Gonna scare me to death.
As you can see, these are all pretty popular bands, and even on the radio frequently. Or at least they used to be on the radio frequently. I can't speak much for these days, but if you ever listened to Sirius XM's Octane back in the early 2010s, this alt metal stuff is pretty much all they ever played. I'd wager most of the time when people say nu metal, these are the bands that they are referring to, even though this is quite different from this. Of course, there are some bands who play all three styles. Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory, which is a fitting name given what I'm about to say, has elements of all three.
What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time when I tried so hard. You have to act like you're someone. You did what you did.
Slipknot also blends all three styles, as well as groove metal, leaning more towards certain genres on different albums.
The interest of all involved, I got the problem solved. And the verdict's just guilty. And the guilt lays on the way of penetrate.
And Disturbed, while consisting of alt metal and hard rock for most of their discography, they have flirted with nu metal and rap metal as well. So I hope this clears up the distinction between these three styles. I know that I sort of did this already, but I figured I could do a better job this time around. I contemplated doing a separate video for each of these three styles, but it seemed like a better idea to do it this way, since many confuse these genres for each other. Saves me the trouble of making a rap metal or alt metal video, only to see comments saying, "Dude, it's just nu metal, bro." Our acculturation continues as we explore metal's overcomplicated genres.